Hello, everybody. This recording is about field management and coherence. So, when I talk about field management, I'm not talking about agriculture. I'm talking about the energetic fields the one that we ourselves maintain, the field of direct experience around us, and then the fields that we encounter. And if there's one thing that kind of this time of year really brings up for a lot of us is there's just a lot of mixing of fields and a lot of incoherency too. I can imagine that if you're a part of this group, then that your relationship with your family hasn't always been the most straightforward, and perhaps the relationship with the place where you come from hasn't always been that straightforward. So this is sort of what we can encounter. And this is what the whole idea of field management is about. And what I think is just really important in the nature of what we're doing at the moment with reality shaping is just to kind of understand a little bit the present time and maybe the execution of these tools and these techniques. I feel that up until quite recently, there has been a kind of a in order to be spiritual, it was important that you retreated from the world. I think that has always been, up until recently, I think that has been kind of the go-to. You you go and you remove yourself from the world and you live in the cave. And that's how you just learn to manage your own personal field, right? Your own emotions, your own feelings, etc., etc. And I think what's being asked of us now, as we approach just such traumatic times, is we're being asked to kind of not only manage our own fields, but to manage the collective fields, right? So, and what that means, the potential in that is that we can kind of walk into rooms, and because of our coherence, when I say coherence, I just mean we are in our authenticity and we are moving at our own pace and we are not getting pulled by other people's psychodrama. We are sovereign, would be a good word there. We are coherent. The things that come out of our mouth um, correspond with what we feel inside. Um, and so there's a certain we have this ability, we have this capacity to bring this coherence into group fields. And this is something that I think is really interesting. I know myself, I won't be home this Christmas, but I know that when I have gone home in the past, and I've been able to do this, it's changed everything very dramatically. I go home and I'm in that space, I'm with old friends, and I stay true to myself. I don't get pulled in some kind of modalities that we call this pendulums, right? Pendulums are when someone has just a strong opinion or tries to inject emotion or excess importance into something. I know this is sort of something that I um, recognize a lot, especially like, speaking to my mother or something, and she'll just say something about migrants, or she'll say something about young people not wanting to work. Things like this, which if I'm not careful, can produce a very strong emotional response in me. That emotional response just gets me into her wavelength. I get caught up in her pendulum and I start to give the topic excess importance. I start to give her feeling and my feeling excess importance. And in that way, I lose coherence. And in that way, I lose my capacity to manage the field. So a lot of this comes from this place of Zen, and there's that old Zen koan where you've probably all heard this story of, a farmer who loses his horse and then loses his son, and then his son breaks his leg. And with each incident that happens, the people of the village come and go, "Oh my God, this is so terrible." And his response is always, "Is that so? Is that so?" And in the end of the story, the the farmer's son is the only son who doesn't get taken off to fight in a war. And so the farmer is actually very fortunate. And the villagers will come up to him and go, um, "Oh, you're so lucky." And his response again is this neutral, coherent reply, "Is that so?" So it's this sense of holding your center, not getting pulled into useless battles, not getting pulled into emotional spikes. And when you can do this, it's a little bit like the rest of the group around you kind of meet that level. There's a sort of an attunement. I know in one of the talks we did the other day, someone said this word entrainment, which I love. And I recognize it a lot with dogs, for example. I have two pups and I'll bring them to the park. And if there's other dogs that are kind of chaotic, they go chaotic too. But then every so often, like an old greyhound will come to the park, like a female greyhound, and she will just have this kind of calm and presence and poise and maturity. And the other dogs just slow down because of her. So, in many ways, I'm trying to emulate that old greyhound as much as I possibly can to just be in this place of poise and composure and coherence. And I'm doing it not as a way to kind of remain aloof, but to offer a some sort of safety to the group. I don't think people typically enjoy being incensed or overly excited or overly stimulated, but their nervous systems are wired to always go to those places to seek out the most dramatic thing. Um, I remember like going home to my family, and at the height of my dad's cancer, it just would he would watch a lot of kind of like thriller movies and things like this, and I would go home and go, "God, this movie is so stressful." I was always surprised at how they could manage to watch these movies, and just a lot of violence on TV and things like that. And I probably didn't respond from a place of coherence. I probably responded from a place of criticism. But this idea of, yeah, just recognizing that you can be the pillar of sanity within the group, and eventually that people will just attune to that. People will respond to that because that is the most pleasant frequency. It's the most conducive frequency. And the way to kind of get to this, and what I've been practicing a lot recently, is just this little thing which sounds so simple, but is so beneficial. And I just call it slow, slower, slowest. So when I'm doing something, this is my mantra. I go, "Oh, oh, oh, slow down." And as I'm beginning to slow down, I then go, "Okay, slower." And as that's happening, I then go, "Okay, let's go to slowest." And it's this process of just decelerating everything that I'm doing. At the moment, collectively, our energies are highly accelerated. And they've been accelerated by design. There's a lot of information being fed to us that would cause panic. Um, this kind of there's a lot of, manufactured war and manufactured crisis in the world at the moment. The purpose of that It's not really to have a war, it's not really to have a crisis. The purpose of that is to sow fear into people, right? To create anxiety. When we are anxious, we turn more and more to money and materiality. When we are at peace, we turn more to love. Do you ever notice that in yourself? When you're at peace, you turn to love, you turn to compassion, you turn to humanity. But when you're anxious, you turn to me, myself, mine. So we remain divided. So the more you can approach life from this place of slow, oh no, slower and slowest, it allows you to stay in this place of coherence, which then gives you this huge power. And that power that you have is to be the one sane person in the room. And your sanity, much like that old, wise, graceful greyhound, calms down all the pups. So that really is kind of the message that I feel coming through now. Just at a personal level, how I'm applying that is often just reducing my exposure. Like this is a very social time of year. If I don't feel up to doing something, but at the same time I do want to go, I'll just reduce my time there. I leave everything early. I'm drinking lots of water. I'm trying to read as much as possible. Reading is just has always been for me just a way of slowing everything down. As I walk, I try to imagine, and this is a tick that hand thing, that my feet are kissing the earth. As I move through time, as I move through my days, I'm really trying to come back to like, hey, have I noticed the beauty around me today? Because when you are in this place of slower, slowest, you just see beauty. You see joy. You feel more connected to yourself. So yeah, that's the kind of the message and the invitation here, because we are going to probably find ourselves exposed to incoherency in the next few weeks and exposed to drama and exposed to other people venting and immaturity and all of these things. And, there's an element of like set your boundaries, create distance. But I think is also a wonderful challenge as people who work with energy, people who are highly engaged in developing yourself and understanding yourself. The challenge here is, can you manage external fields? Can you actually sit in the presence of your mother, your sister, your father, your uncles, your old friends, and through your stability, through your groundedness, you actually change them? Um, so that's it. Slower, slowest. Thank you.